think I just thought that if you are breaking lockdown, you're probably being a bit selfish. Everyone's going through the same issues. I didn't see my grandparents for months and months and months.
But there was an uncomfortable amount of people just ignoring it completely, and that was very odd.
I mean, I wear a mask because it's common sense. Sorry, Ian Brown, but it's common sense. Yeah, I know. It's common sense, I'm afraid. And if you don't wear them, you are just selfish.
Mentally, it's the most difficult thing I've ever done, and I'm still dealing with it now.
Hello and welcome back to the Talking Head podcast.
If you don't know who we are, every week we get new voices talking about a different subject around mental health.
This podcast may contain sensitive subjects and vocabulary that has been shown to provoke a reaction.
But know that all efforts have gone into making sure it's as helpful to everyone as possible.
As always, we appreciate all the love and support towards each and every episode.
Sharing does make people listen.
And listening sparks conversation.
Let's get talking.
Hello and welcome back to the Talking Head podcast. This is episode 12, the season finale, the coronavirus special. This is something I've sort of teased for a bit, but I'm really excited to sort of finally get it out. It's been a sort of a journey so far. I've definitely felt myself progress as sort of a host and sort of been able to ask better questions and stuff like that. And you know what, I've really enjoyed my time sort of doing it. We're not going anywhere really that suddenly. We will be coming back quite, shortly really. And we'll be coming back in a video format. I'm very excited about that. We've also got a few other things in the pipeline. A few other things going on behind the scenes, which I don't want to disclose yet, but you should look forward to them. A lot of people might listen to this and then, this be the first podcast to listen to and go, this is a terrible time to start enjoying the podcast. It's actually a really great time. We've got 11 other episodes and this one for you to listen to in the meantime, but it won't be long until we're back. And thank you to everybody that sort of said anything positive about the podcast, because it doesn't go unnoticed, and every single share, every single like you sort of give us really does sort of make a difference. So thank you for that, and keep spreading the good word. But we'll see you back very, very shortly. This podcast is something that's probably my favourite one that I've done so far. It features multiple voices talking about a singular topic and their experiences, which is something we can sort of all relate to, and that's coronavirus. Which is a bit of a bugger recently, but it's something that sort of I wanted to talk about for a while, and we're finally sort of getting multiple different voices to talk about it. So it's a different format to usual, rather than just having me and a guest. It's me and a few other people talking about coronavirus. So thank you for all your love and support, and I'll be seeing you very, very soon for a fresh and new season, which is coming out very, very soon. So stay updated on the socials, and we'll let you know sort of when we're coming back, which won't be very long at all. So until then, take care and enjoy today's podcast. Thank you. Today I'm going to be joined by somebody that has not joined us on the podcast as of yet. This is his sort of first should we say baptism onto the podcast.
Bigging me up a bit here.
Yeah, exactly. I'd like to welcome James. How you doing?
I am good. I'm very good, to be fair. How are you?
I'm good. Where are you situated right now?
I am currently in a small town called Wareham on the Welsh border.
So nobody's ever heard of that.
No,
would you
and nobody ever will.
Would you recommend for people to come, or is it sort of?
Honestly, no. The only there's nothing here. Its only claim to fame is Greg Davis went to the school. That's about it.
That's it.
He doesn't really come here very often. So
as in he went to
if you want to see him,
as he went to the school as a student, or
yeah,
right? Because he was a teacher at one point, wasn't he? But I'm not sure.
Yeah,
if
I don't think that was here. I think that was somewhere else.
He had second thoughts. Yeah, he didn't want to teach here. He moved somewhere else. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so now I'm joined by Lewis Hill. He's a neighbour of the podcast. He's been here many, many times. I was trying to find the word. Neighbour is not the right one to use, is it? Which one? What's probably the friend of the podcast. He's a friend of the podcast. He's a friend, a mate of the podcast. He's been here second. He's been here the second and most amount of times compared to me, but that's sort of to become expected. Yeah, he's here to give his thoughts about coronavirus, which we all wanted to hear. Lewis Hill's opinions on coronavirus, and we've been dying to know. But this is obviously a bigger. This is part of a bigger collection of voices talking about it. And now I'm going to be joined by my fourth guest, who is recording this actually on a night when it's supposed to be going out. So this is probably the latest I've actually ever recorded it to the time it comes out. That's completely my fault because I'm really unprepared. But I'd like to welcome my dad, who's actually, I've not just managed to get him on because I'm desperate. It's because I think you've got stories to tell about coronavirus. And you've had a weird time through it. So can you tell us about actually just introduce yourself, because
yeah. Hello. Well, I think you've done a fairly decent job. Hello, everybody. Yes, I am Taylor's dad. And I guess that what we're going to be talking about is how we've all dealt with coronavirus, and we've all dealt with it in our own different ways. Without putting too fine a point on it, I own my own business, with my business partner, and we've had probably the toughest year that we could ever have imagined. And thinking back to January, I can't ever imagine that we would have sat down and thought this could have ever happened to us.
Yeah, so I think we should sort of look at it in the fact that sort of last year, December time, nobody really ever knew about coronavirus, and I remember you were saying to me, like, going into the next year, it's going to be a good year. Sort of like Boris Johnson was saying, it's going to be a good year. Do you know what I mean? Did you see that post? And it was like, it's going to be a good year this year. It's like, I feel like you came into it with that mindset.
We genuinely thought, the end of last year, December 2001, we just genuinely thought that, 2001, 2009, and yeah.
19. Yeah, got it.
Yeah, it's been a long year. We genuinely thought that we're actually going to be, this year was going to be our year. We genuinely had a full order book. We had contracts still ongoing from that previous year. And yeah, we just nobody saw it coming. And I guess we all learnt very, very quickly to adapt and try different things.
So, yeah, my next guest is someone you might have recognised before. He's a familiar voice. He was the first person to ever feature on the podcast. I'd like to welcome back Gabriel. How are you doing, mate?
Hello there. How are you? All good?
I'm doing good. We've already asked this question when we started the Zoom call, so it's a bit awkward. But, I know you're doing well.
Thanks for checking in.
You've just moved into, your accommodation for university.
Yeah.
How are you doing with that?
Yeah, not bad, I really like it. It's really cool. I thought I was kind of moving into the middle of nowhere, but I found a Tesco Express and I'm back
Normality.
in
It's there, yeah.
I saw some cows this morning and that was brilliant.
Okay. Oh, wow.
I'm not sure I've ever seen a cow in my life.
Really?
In person? I'm not quite sure. I have no memory of it because I was so whoa, I was so surprised. But it's been a good day so far. It's been a good day.
I mean, you are a boy from the city, so you wouldn't be probably seeing cows on a daily basis.
The ghetto, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be fair, we've all lockdown lifting lately, and I've finally been able to get back snowboarding up in the snow slope in Manchester, so that's been pretty good, to be fair.
Oh, cool. Are you a big time snowboarder or?
I was pre-lockdown. I'm a bit out of practice now, I'll be honest.
Yeah. Have you gone sort of into the natural environments, or have you just done it in sort of these big complexes?
Generally, it's just the complexes because it's cheaper. I've been out into the wilds, but getting a plane ticket to France every other week can get a bit pricey.
Yeah, I imagine. I swear, I think I saw it on your Snapchat. It's like, don't take AirPods onto.
Yes, yeah, I saw a skier there.
Oh, so it wasn't you?
In. It wasn't me, thank God.
Okay. Right, cool.
I don't think I could let my I don't think I could do that for
no.
Too much responsibility there. But yeah, I saw this skier putting in AirPods, and I was just like, you're taking pure white little 200-pound pieces of plastic onto a pure white snow slope. If you fall over, you may as well just burn some money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, I don't know what made them think it was a good idea, but
it is sort of baffling, isn't it? I mean, it's confidence.
It's unrivaled. I wish I could be that confident, to be honest.
I'll go out there and say it's big dick energy right there.
Oh, it's massive. Take AirPods.
Yeah, but did you see it fling out or?
No, I didn't see it fling out. I think
that would have been good if you did.
I would have physically lost it. But no, I think he put them under, half under a beanie, so they kind of stuck in a little bit. But it's still if you fall in, if you slip out and the beanie comes off, you've lost your headphones.
There's no way.
It's too much risk for how much those things cost.
Yeah. Well, honestly, for every sensible person, there's always an idiot. So
I mean, as long as it's not my money, I don't really care at the end of the day.
Yeah. To be fair, it's his loss. It's not. And at the end of the day, it's a funny story for everybody apart from that person. So, and we've gained something for the podcast for it. So thanks, that guy, for doing that.
Yeah, thank you.
But yeah, today we're talking about coronavirus, as the entire podcast is, and I'd like to get your first thoughts on sort of when you heard the big C word. What was your first initial reaction, and sort of what the first sort of actions that you took as a result of hearing that word?
I think the first time I heard about corona was it feels like ages ago, but actually it was only January. Just because it had already hit China by then, it started by then, and there was already coverage about it. And I remember it wasn't being covered on major news sites, so I had to research it myself. And I remember watching a video or listening to an audio file of a Chinese reporter on the phone to a nurse or a doctor who was in one of these hospitals and was saying, "We are at capacity. People are dying. We can't go." It was so scary. And I thought initially, well, they had SARS previously, and that didn't come here. And I thought that, oh, okay, so this is just another foreign illness that we're not going to need to worry about. Lo and behold, it's hard. I feel bad for laughing, but I think if I don't laugh, I end up crying. But,
you've got to find some sort of
release
thing to smile about. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Even if it's kind of a scared smile. So January was when I first heard about it, and then I remember the first case that hit my borough in London. Someone had taken an Uber taxi to the local hospital, and he had it. He totally had it, and he had to be quarantined immediately.
Jesus.
I don't know where he was from. I don't know who he was. All I heard was, we've got the first corona case in London, and it's in our hospital, and no one knows who that person's been exposed to. So that was pretty shocking. I mean, I live in a really big part of London, so the chances of meeting someone at that point with COVID was so small. But now it's the R number's gone up again, which is ridiculous. I'm not going to talk about the government just because it's so easy to criticize them, and I feel like everyone's doing it anyway. They just haven't quite got it on pat, but oh well. I think the initial panic of it hit, and then I thought, wow. And then, do you remember we supposedly nearly went to war with Iran? So I just forgot about it.
No, we forget about all the stuff that's
happened. Me too. It's incredible.
I mean, the forest fires we had at the start of the year as well. It was mental.
Exactly. It was insane.
I guess looking back, it was probably January, February. It was a time when obviously the news had broken in China, and everybody was discussing it at the time and saying, but how long will it be before it travels across the world? But because we'd been through bird flu before, and it didn't really make it to the UK, and it never really had. It had a big impact in Asia, but it didn't have a big impact here. So we probably all just sat back and thought, well, it's not really going to happen. We might end up with one or two cases. I can even remember that time when I heard about the first couple of cases. Even at that point then, I never imagined that we would be in the position we're in now.
I think it must have been the start, like end of January, start of February, when it wasn't in England yet. It was sort of still this like faraway thing in China and like a little bit in Italy, and it was like, oh, surely this thing like can't be that bad. It's just like a new thing. Like it'll be all right. It'll like blow over, and then then it's like, oh, it's still here, and it's now it's closer.
Yeah.
Oh, now we're not allowed outside. Oh, maybe this is worse than I thought.
Yeah. Do you remember of tracking it and sort of seeing if it had gone into your local town or village and sort of seeing that first report? And then because I mean, I'm from Leeds and sort of I didn't really think much of it. And then sort of we got the first case in Leeds, and at this point I was like, okay, this is bigger than sort of anything I've seen before.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because when you think China all the way to bloody Leeds, I mean, they're two completely separate things. I'm thinking this is bigger than I thought it was, and then sort of the case multiplied, and
it kind of, when did it first get in this country? It first got mentioned in like January, didn't it? Because everyone was like, 2020 is off to a crap start because we've got World War III, and we've got coronavirus. This is gonna not end very well, type thing. But it was kind of one of those. It was like maybe China, because it's in China. You think, it's miles away from us, we'll be all right, type thing. And then it was like February. It's like, oh, it's getting more of a big thing now. There's people all over the world with it and whatever. But then I don't know. It was one of those things like whenever it was on the news, it was obviously on the news and I thought about it. But then during the day, I wasn't thinking about it. But now I think about it every day, obviously, because it's in everyone's lives now. But
it's a part of everybody's.
Unless it was on the news, I wasn't like interested. Like when I watched the news, I was a bit like scared. I was like, oh, this is going to be a bit of a, because they were kind of making it out like it was like killing people instantly. I mean, you get it, you're dead, type thing. That's how I thought of it anyway. But then, like when you actually hear people, because that's all it was in this country. It was like, oh, this virus is taking over China. Loads of people are dead. Like things like, oh.
It's sort of. I mean, I look at my first reaction to it. I think I was probably. I mean, I worked in retail back then, and I was sort of. I think I took it more seriously than any other employee there. Just in the fact that I was sort of saying, oh, we should probably like regularly like clean stuff. Like we have like a kiosk at the front.
Oh, for sure.
And I would like, obviously that'd get it was like a high contact area. So I would clean that quite a bit. And I think they thought it was a bit of a joke at the time. I think I had the sort of last laugh there because like maybe like a few days later, we sort of went into this national lockdown. So like, sort of national lockdown. What was your sort of first reaction to that? And were you a bit daunted? Where were you? Were you at home?
Well, pretty similar to you. I worked in a pub throughout like the start of all this, and yeah, definitely there was like, especially been so remote here. There's like obviously there's not a lot edgeways like around here. Like nearest town that's like decently big is like an hour away. So like you're properly in the sticks, and then everyone just kind of has this culture of like almost like a bit of a disbelief at the news because you're so disconnected from it. It's like, oh well, it can't be that bad, surely. Like, and then you get, oh, new reported case in here, and it's like, hang on a second, that doesn't sound right.
No.
And then obviously like the work culture, especially like you said, it was very like jokey with it, and it's like, oh, whatever, it's a cold, yada yada, and it's like it was, because I think especially here, like at least in Leeds, it's like a pretty big area. With how rural it is here, everyone just kind of takes it as a, oh well, it couldn't happen here because we live in nowhere. And then obviously we went into national lockdown, and everyone's like, oh well, this is stupid, I'm just going to flaunt it everywhere. And I think especially in like rural areas was where it was worse. Like I'm assuming there's like, obviously there's all these things of like parties and this and that in like Manchester and Leeds and London, but you never heard about them around here. But as someone who lives here, they were everywhere.
Right.
Like, because obviously we don't have the biggest sort of police force. So we've got, everything stretched so thin, and it was almost like there were definitely most people adhering to it, but there was an uncomfortable amount of people just ignoring it completely, and that was very odd.
March rolls around. By this time, I've gotten a job working in my local Costa, and I can't remember quite when, but they sent out an email saying, "Okay, COVID's coming. We can't give you any more wages." Costa was one of those companies that did that. They did say they would give us the next month in advance, but they said after that, you've got no financial support. So we were feeling pretty scared. And then the furlough system came out, and we were all really relieved. So I think that span of between January and late March when we went into lockdown, I can't remember what my last work date was, but I think it was like March 23rd that we went in, something like that. And that space of just under 2 months, no, just under 3 months, was, I think, probably like I tried to just forget about it, and then it hit, and then we were suddenly faced with that massive thing of now you've got to be at least 3 meters apart from everyone that you know.
Yeah.
You can't go see people. I go to church on a Sunday. I used to on a regular basis, like every week, and that was the first thing to close, and I didn't realize how much of like a social club that was for me until about a week in, because I realized, I'm not going to see any of my people, any of my friends. So that was my first thought. It was the sudden shock and loss of like all of my social networks, and I kept in touch with people in the way that we've all been doing on Zoom. But I think the initial thoughts were, for me, this isn't going to just fizzle out in the summer. We're still going to be dealing with this until this point in the year. I'm not surprised that we're here right now. I think the only thing that surprises me really is that we still have people who like don't believe it exists.
But then like the initial like fear passed when basically everyone kind of found out it's flu, isn't it? But that's not to obviously downplay it. I don't want to piss on Corona's bonfire. You've done well.
You have done quite well.
Yeah.
But lockdown, so that came around. How did you sort of react to that? Did it sort of become real when that sort of came around?
Yeah, it's kind of like a bit of a shock. But I only had a week of furlough, like literally a week, and that was it. And then I was back to work because we opened back up. So I'm kind of glad that happened because it didn't feel like I was in lockdown. I was just going to work, so it was all right. Most of it pretty much went full time, so it was all right. So I wasn't one of those people who had no job, no school, no mates type thing. So I went on the phone every night with my mates. Also, went to work. So it was pretty much not normal, but do you know what I mean? It didn't feel as surreal as it probably would have done if I didn't work for like however long it was, like 3 months. 4 months.
Like for sure, I think even now there's still like, especially around here, that air of like, oh, I don't need to wear a mask. It's not round here. Yeah. It could never happen to us. But clearly it is happening, and people are just like, I don't know if it's willful ignorance or just being oblivious to everything. But yeah, it was a very weird reaction where it almost felt like it wasn't real around here, just because there was nothing been done on like a local level, and the reaction to it was more just like, this is for other people, not us. We're fine. And then, so yeah, it was a really odd sort of like fever dream almost. It was like a thing that wasn't.
The sort of image I'm getting of your sort of your village is I don't know if you've seen Hot Fuzz, but sort of the village from there.
Yes.
I'm imagining sort of similar vibes.
Yeah, it's slightly more built up than that, but not by much. It's it's very similar. It's surprisingly less of a like farming town.
Right.
Despite being where it is, it's just a very small, dead little like satellite town almost. It's like a commuter town. And it's very weird, like, but yeah, that's a very good comparison, to be fair. It's very like everyone knows each other, and village fates and all this, and I hate it because I don't know anyone from here because I'm not from here. I just live here, and it's
sort of an outsider.
Yeah, it's a very weird perspective looking from the outside in, and it's like this feels very cult, almost a bit cult-like, to be fair.
Yeah.
It's very odd.
Maybe you should be a bit careful where you tread. So what with lockdown, so what's the biggest change in your life that sort of came out of that?
There's a couple. It's because it's been so long, it almost feels like I've gone through a bunch of different stages within it. So when it first started, I was like, oh, this is fine. I haven't got to do anything. I can just sit at home, I'll watch films and be on Xbox. And that was fantastic for 2 or 3 weeks.
That protest of back in, I think it was August, where Jeremy Corbyn's brother, called all his friends and they all went into Trafalgar and they had a 10,000 people rally or whatever, protest for this pandemic. Disgusting. I found that absolutely horrifying. And then, here's the kicker. So it's a 10 grand fine, right? For meeting up. For people organising these massive events during a pandemic. But he can pay for it. So surely if you're rich and well off and 10 grand's not much to you, surely that just makes it legal, It's just the cost of running a protest. So, I don't know. Back to that question. Initially, I think I've always thought that we were going to be in it for the long haul. I think that this was such a serious thing. I just think that, we just weren't very quick at getting into action about it. Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be one of these things where sort of we've always been saying we won't know how well we've sort of done until we sort of come out of it. And I don't even think we're sort of out of it yet. We're what we aren't. So can we even sort of make these judgments yet where we go, right, was this a right decision? Was this, because we don't really know. I don't think really in a way we might never really know, because a lot of it is sort of, it's muddled around and it's very, very tricky. So when you were in lockdown, you were speaking about obviously the social element, sort of that being stripped away from you. Did that affect you mentally? And sort of, I'd like to hear sort of, has it gone back to normal? Did it go back to normal? Did you get to see them again before you sort of moved away to uni? Because there sort of must have been a small gap where you must have been able to sort of see them again.
Yeah, there was. I'm one of the lucky few who hasn't had a history of mental health issues. I've been pretty solid. The only thing I really struggle with is some learning difficulties and asthmatic lungs. But as far as mentally, psychologically, I've always been pretty steady. I've managed to cope through a lot of things. I think the only thing I really felt was just the lack of a system, the lack of a reason to get up in the morning. That really messed with me. I'm someone who I do rely on having a routine because it's the healthiest thing to do. I think you wake up, you go somewhere, you wake up, you go home, you do something, and then you go to bed. It makes sense to me. But it's not like we couldn't leave our house. I was lucky enough to have space and a green space near my house to go and spend some time in alone. So I did a lot of running and exercise during the lockdown. I think that definitely helped with the whole physicality and the psychological aspect of being trapped in your home. Not being able to see people for a while, that was a bother. But I think every time I thought about it, I then rationalized it, and I just thought, well, it's either this or one of us catches COVID by accident when we don't need to. And I think that through rationalizing it, I'm not to say that anyone who wants to go see their friends is this, but I think I just thought that if you are breaking lockdown, you're probably being a bit selfish. Everyone's going through the same issues. I didn't see my grandparents for months and months and months. I only saw them recently before I moved out, just because the R number was still low at the time. And I thought, okay, well, we isolated for a few days beforehand as well, just to make sure. And I think that when I told myself that if I'd be putting my other people at risk, I think that took out the whole need to go see people, because I just accepted it. And then I would Skype my friends and chat to them and text with people, and I'd still go out. I think going out for me, like walking outside my front door, was probably the healthiest thing I could do. And it actually gave me a lot of time to like really connect with my. I've got one brother, and previously we didn't really get on that much, but now it's a bit better. And it gave me a chance to really learn how to like run a house. My mum was still working all the way through lockdown. Not to say that I wasn't doing anything in the house beforehand, but because of her work and because the long hours she was doing, she really couldn't do anything in the house. So my days, if I wasn't wasting my time watching Netflix, I was cleaning, or I was cooking, or I was doing the shopping, or I was going out on my own. And I think the space of time that it took for me to like mature in that sense and be a bit more house savvy and a bit connect with my brother a bit more. We smoked a lot of weed. And that was it. We'd have like whole weeks where it'd just be, what did we do? I don't know. I can't remember. Most of it was sleeping or eating. But I think that it definitely, in the midst of it, I think I coped extraordinarily well. Not to gloat, but I think I could probably do round 2 of lockdown. I feel like I'll be able to. It will be a different setting, because I really will just be on my own with other people, but on my own without family.
It was really difficult because the industry we're in, they kind of had a situation where it's the construction industry, by the way. It was carrying on, not as normal, with different things in place to protect people, but at that point everything was supposed to carry on, partly because you've got programs to meet, clients, to jobs to hand over, and clients to keep happy. So for that reason, whilst a lot of jobs did shut down, there was a few that insisted that they wanted to carry on. We got some letters sent to us that we gave to our employees that should they get stopped by the police and asked where they were going, they just had to produce this letter, which proved that they were working on a construction site that was open and they were allowed to travel. But the office staff, we realised very quickly that there was no way we could actually work in an office together safely at that point, and everybody was advised to stay at home, and that happened quite quickly, really.
So the idea that you sort of got to produce a document just to prove that you can do your job is a bit mental in a way. But the sort of idea of working from home, so how long did that last for you? Because from what I remember, it wasn't very long.
I think it was in the region of 2 or 3 weeks working from home. But then we very quickly realised that you can't do everything from home. Every single time you sat down and tried to do something, you realised that a part of what you were trying to do was in the office. So we decided that we were each going to have a separate day and go to the office on that day. And that sort of gradually started to increase, really. The difficulty was we'd furloughed all of our staff, our office staff, which meant that we were both having to do the jobs of 3 or 4 different people in departments that you don't normally have anything to do with, like accounts. And we were all just really trying our best. I guess the best way to describe it is, at the time I remember thinking, I've just got to take a deep breath and get on with it. But I never expected it to last as long as it did.
So would you describe that time as very stressful?
The most stressful time I've ever had, partly because you really didn't know what the future held. You had the lives of other people who were sat at home. Furloughing means you can't actually get in touch with anybody. They can't do anything that would generate any profit for the business. And as a result of that, you can't even ask them a simple question about something they would know about, but you have to go looking for the answer. For that reason, it just became so stressful, just trying to understand. People were quite often talking to you from sites, expecting you to know everything there is to know about it, on jobs that I'd had nothing at all to do with. And you knew that the people who did know, you can't contact them.
Yeah, I think the furlough scheme was probably a huge weight lifted off your shoulders for a bit. But it doesn't take away all the other stresses that you just listed, sort of from that.
In fact, no, to be fair, it was probably fantastic for about a week and a half. And then I got so bloody bored. It's like, I can't be bothered to do all. So I took up like running and all that. And took it up again. I used to do quite a bit of like cross country and that. But so I took up all that. And then that was all right for about 2 months. It gave us something to do. I was in the best shape I've been in for a while. And I'm still like pretty good. But then it was like, again, because that's all there is to do. It's like, all right, well, this is getting a bit tedious. I've been doing this same thing for like 2 months. And I'm very much a person who doesn't sit well. It sort of got to the point where, there's almost that bit of like, I don't want to say depression because it's not depression, but just, I suppose, complete lack of motivation to do anything because you're so bored and you can't like think of anything to do. And then you just kind of slump around and sort of like don't exist for a bit. And then very recently, with it all starting to open up, it's been, I suppose the biggest change has mostly just been like through lockdown, the lack of a shit I give for what other people think.
Yeah, no, I've sort of developed that too. It's sort of a weird thing, sort of. I don't know why it sort of happened all of a sudden. And honestly, I mean, it probably could be put down to many things, sort of coming out of a relationship, sort of lockdown.
Oh, definitely that.
Sort of just all these things, sort of uni coming up, and sort of the idea that the idea that the people that I already really sort of know doesn't really matter what they think about me anymore because majority of them I'm probably never going to see again, if that makes sense. Not in a way that sort of, so anybody that's listening and they already know me, I'm not fucking going, yeah, you can fuck off. No, because that's not what I'm like. But the idea is sort of like, I'm going to uni, sort of starting fresh anyway. But yeah, with lockdown, it's had a weird effect on me, sort of, where now I've started to give less of a shit really about what people think about me.
Yeah, it's honestly the best thing to come out of it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, sort of the idea that sort of I would have even sort of done a podcast at the start of this year would sort of not really sit right with me and be something I'd be uncomfortable with. But that's something I probably wouldn't have done if it wasn't lockdown. I think it probably totals to boredom as well. Sort of, you don't want to.
Yeah, it gives you that outlet.
You want to be more than boring. Do you know what I mean? You want to do something that's sort of going to be entertaining. I class myself as more of an entertainer than anything because that's sort of, one of the reasons I want to make films is because I love entertaining people and it's a great medium to do that on.
Oh yeah, definitely. I completely feel you with that.
Yeah, because if you have stories to tell, you shouldn't be doing it because you want to meet your favorite actors or whatever. You should be doing it because you want to tell your stories. It's a bonus to meet your favorite actors and actresses.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like that's a pretty good bonus, to be fair.
It's a pretty good bonus, but like the sort of idea behind it should always sort of remain in my head. Sort of, you want to tell a story, you want to entertain people. That's just sort of
definitely
do it. And yeah, I know there's certain things that can sort of total up, this sort of lack of care now, and I feel a lot less self-conscious, which is good. And I think a lot of it actually has been helped by sort of talking on these podcasts and sort of opening up. And being like that, because any sort of conversation you have with someone is cathartic in its own way, usually, if they're handling the conversation right. And you usually feel a lot better afterwards. After having it, and I can total up this sort of lack of care of what people think about me to sort of I don't know what made me think of doing it, but like recently I've been really bored and I've been trying to be as creative as possible, so doing like quite a lot of writing.
It gets hard though, doesn't it?
Yeah, no,
is it just me? It gets really hard to be creative when you're like bored and you're like, I need to do something, and then you're churning out, and it's just sometimes it just doesn't flow, and it's like.
So, I mean, I'd say that I've been quite creative because obviously I said I was gonna. I basically put this video of myself singing on Instagram. I hate the idea of fucking saying that because it seems so cringy, but the idea of it, I just put it on, and it like, to be fair, like I got some nice messages from it, and I was like, oh, that's actually quite nice. And there's no sort of ambition there. I don't want to sort of pursue that. It was just an idea that I was just creative, and I was.
It's a nice outlet.
I was jamming, and you know what? I just thought I'll put it out there because it's something I'm sort of proud of. And sort of something that, you know, was nice, and sort of, so I put it out there, and you know, and I just thought, yeah. So sort of then coming out of that, so for you, it wouldn't have been sort of going back to work. That was sort of something you were doing the entire time. For you, it would have been more sort of things reopening. So do you remember the first few times you started going out doing normal things? And so how did you sort of feel about that? So you sort of come to it with a new sort of appreciation for life and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think like don't waste. Yeah, I've kind of got a new outlook. Don't waste stuff. Don't waste time with your mates. That's important. The first normal thing I did a because me and my mate's holiday got cancelled, so we did a trip to sunny Scarborough, Barbados, and then went to York for a night out. That was kind of like the first normal thing we did, and it felt normal. I went to Scarborough. Beach was, you know, busy, which is wrong, but and there was people everywhere, which is kind of wrong as well. We felt normal. Went out in York, felt pretty much normal. We were quite dead actually. I mean, it was like Wednesday night, so to be expected. But it was a good night. I had a good laugh. Left in the morning. You know, it was a nice. You know, we had a little bit of a road trip. Tunes on. It was nice weather. It was like 30 degrees. It was nice. It was kind of a good moment. So it was quite nice. It felt like one of those things you look back and go, oh, do you remember when we fucking piled into Daniel's shitty Polo and drove to Scarborough?
So there are positives.
That, yeah. And then after that, just kind of went out uptown every kind of Saturday. And whatever. So that was relatively normal for someone of my age. So felt relatively normal apart from kind of, you know, being told you can't, you know, sit together and stuff. Whatever.
Well, obviously, sort of, with the rule of 6 being introduced, that's something that sort of took a toll on a lot of people with sort of going out schedule. So a lot of people would go out in groups bigger than 6, and sort of that can't happen anymore.
Our group's 7. So.
Right. So it's like S Club. You've been shagged. Yeah. Yeah, he's sort of. I'm going to say, what are you doing? Come on, get your groups right.
It's S Club 3 now, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah, they reformed, but the other 4 aren't bothered.
So is it not S Club 7, or are they actually coming back?
S Club 3.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Have they made that decision because of this rule of 6, or they've just had a massive fallout?
I think it's just because I don't know if they had a big breakup. I'm not sure.
Tensions
sure.
in the S Club.
For S Club 7 sting. S Club 7 sting.
I can't actually tell you, mate. To be honest, I could name step songs.
Steps 5, 6, 7, 8.
5, 6, 7, 8. My boots shooting, baby, was driving you crazy. And then oh shit, who did the chicken? No, not the chicken shop one. The fast food one. McDonald's. Oh, is it?
Yeah, they were literally called like the fast food rockers.
I think did they have any more hits? Or?
No, I don't think so. They kind of ran out of restaurants to sing about, I think.
No, I'm going to say Subway. No, didn't work.
No, Jacobs. But no, they didn't.
They have bootleg versions in there anyway, so I won't be surprised.
Yeah, they ran out of content. Yeah. They couldn't find a rhyme for Pizza Express, so they had to pack it in.
They tried to branch out into supermarkets, didn't work.
No, it didn't work. No, once the supermarket rockers.
But I think I found that actually the space of lockdown, personally, it was quite pleasant. And the other thing was I was on furlough, so being paid whilst being on lockdown is really that put one problem aside. One of the big reasons about getting a job was so I definitely would have enough money for first year, and the initial shock of like thinking, oh gosh, I'm not going to get paid for the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months, that scared the hell out of me, because I just thought, how am I going to earn any extra income? I was planning on getting a second job as well. So to be able to get, a full month's wages as like an average every single month meant that I would be able to be quite comfortable. I don't need to get a job straight away as a result, which is really blessed. I'm very lucky. Yeah.
I mean, sort of, there's two things I want to pull away from that, and sort of, you seemed like I mean, obviously smoking weed is part of it, but you seemed quite productive. You took time to do stuff. Do you know what I mean? You weren't just, you were watching Netflix, but you were doing stuff. Do you know what I mean? Rather than just sitting in bed doing nothing, you were doing stuff, and that seems like the sort of the good thing. But the other thing I really want to pull from it is you saying sort of the idea of a second lockdown doesn't fear you. Now, and that's an opinion sort of that seems quite different to what I've heard previously. So it's an interesting thing to hear. Do you reckon a lot of it that is due to sort of a new environment? Because a lot of people will be sort of doing a second lockdown if it was to happen. If it was going to be a severe and sort of you're locked in your house, they would be doing it in the same environment. Do you reckon because it's a new environment, it would be sort of like a welcome sort of surprise? Do you reckon it'd be easier? Or is there sort of more reason to why you think the second lockdown would be all right, decent for you?
Okay. It's not that it depends. It depends on what I do. If we're allowed to go home, I probably will go home, because that's the easiest way to, then I'm with family and that's fine. But if it just means going back to the exact same way I was, during the months of April, May, June, and July, really, if it means going back to that, that means wearing a mask at all times when you're outside, which is what I did. That means not going outside of your neighbourhood within like a 5-mile radius. I know we had different rules in England, but I think the Welsh and the Scottish did it quite well, which is you limit yourself. It meant, for me, trying to minimise going to the shops, going and doing stuff that required me to go and be in contact with other people. I think minimising that to as little as possible was really important. The only thing I probably have a gripe with is the fact that I spent a lot of money on Amazon. I feel very guilty. I feel guilty about that. I read somewhere that Jeff Bezos, like, if he gave all his money away, not all of it, all the money he earned during lockdown, if he gave that away to his employees as a bonus, he'd be left with the exact same money that he had before lockdown, which is kind of crazy. So I've contributed to that a little bit, I think. But no, I think the second lockdown doesn't scare me in the sense that, it's just going to be me on my own. I actually kind of relish that. I like it. I like the idea of it. The only thing that annoys me, or will annoy me, I'm going to go study a very physical, practical course. That's going to be taken away from me. There's no two ways about that. That's going to be annoying. Currently, we're not able to do much of the socializing that most people think first years would do. And that, that's not great. That's really sad, but at the same time, that's the sacrifice that we as our age group have to make. I think that I don't think a second lockdown is inevitable. I really don't. I think that if we adopt the best measures possible, like just the standard below lockdown, I think it's really, I don't think it's unlikely that we could get past it. I just think that if it did come, I think I'd probably cope the same amount of level that I did when it was going on. Not to say I didn't have points that I was struggling. Of course I did. I really did. There were moments where I just cried and bawled my eyes out because I couldn't cope. But they were few and very far between. I think there were moments where I just needed a hug. That's probably the moments where I'll be weakest. But in the time between that, I'm someone who doesn't like to, I don't want to call it self-pity, but I don't like to mope. That's not a productive use of my time. It's not really a productive use of anyone's time. So I don't do it as a result. That sounds very bad, edgy and badass and
you
cool.
Mope.
That's not me
Yeah.
either. It's just that I'd rather accept it and learn how to exist with it.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, you can feel sad, but then the sort of just moping over it. I agree with, there are I don't want to say surveys, there are bits of information, research that's proven that people that are sort of sad and sort of depressed in a way are actually the most productive sort of people and the most creative people. So that's a positive, if you're sort of feeling like you're anxious, sort of any sort of negativity is going on in your mind, you can translate that into sort of positive things. And you know what, the research is there to show that. So anybody listening sort of, thinking, being quite anxious about this, you can turn it around, you can turn it into positive things. And you don't, but then I say, don't make yourself sad to be the most productive person ever. Don't do something terrible so that you can do something good. Do you know what I mean? But don't take it to extremes, but sort of there's optimism to be taken from that, and you seem quite optimistic for the future.
It's like creative light, I guess you could say, where I'm working in a framework, but it's still, keeping like the gears turning. And then like, as it coming out of like all the lockdown that, and now I've picked up writing again. And now I'm working on like a sort of pilot for a like animated thing. So I'm on like, I think the second draft of that now. And that's going pretty well for the most part, but it's nice to finally like get back into that, because especially I think you'll probably attest this, like doing like college things and all the outside, you sort of kind of lose sight of that, being like, no, I need to do this can wait. And it's nice to finally be like, you know what, no, it doesn't have to wait anymore, I can just do it and like have this outlet.
I mean, sort of, it's weird, sort of, the question I asked sort of is a weird one, because the idea of sort of how would you rate yourself in terms of the creative tasks you've done, you're sort of going to compare to what you've already seen. And sort of, we're in a group chat full of people wanting to do a similar thing.
Yeah, some like fantastic like filmmakers.
And so naturally you compare yourself to what you've sort of done, and it's a weird thing for me. So I started lockdown sort of, I didn't really know what I really wanted to do. I sort of, I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a filmmaker and stuff like that, but I didn't know what I wanted to do with lockdown. And I saw other people's work, and that sort of pushed me to sort of want to, because I saw how better it was. In my head, it was better. And so I was like, well, I want to sort of improve myself. So I took it upon myself. I did a film essay, I did 3 short films, which I wrote and directed and edited and all that shit. And I basically wrote a ton of scripts. And I still am. And it's sort of, I don't know, it was sort of the push I saw. I think it took one person to sort of say that they were pushing to make me push.
I feel like that's kind of where I started being like, you know what, you know what, that gives me something to do. Like,
lockdown,
quite a competitive person.
Lockdown. I mean, I would say I'm competitive. I think it's natural to be competitive, especially in the industry that we want to get into. You've got to you've got to have a competitive edge, and there is quite a lot of bitchiness to that, and that's fine. But you'll notice who's a dick and who isn't the dick, and who you want to work with again. So it's sort of then you've got to remember that. It's sort of, I think lockdown for most people has been this sort of time where they've had something they've put off for ages, and then now they're sort of now working on it. And I think that's a great thing.
Oh, definitely.
And a lot of people are finally getting on those projects that they've put off for so long. So let's talk about post-lockdown now, if that's all right with you. So the idea of it at least anyway. So we're not really sort of out of it.
For however long it's going to last.
So we're not out of, like, the coronavirus isn't just gone. Do you know what I mean? We've got to accept that. We've just sort of eased the measures that were first in place. So the idea sort of, have you gone out much, sort of seen many people?
Honestly, yes. I've half had the like feeling of like, you know what, I don't know how long this is going to last. I want to enjoy it while we have it.
I mean, sort of, I'll own up to it. I've gone out. within the sort of restrictions put in place. Obviously, I'm not. I'm not.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm not going out like
to these raves.
Just ignoring like.
Not that I think there's any raves that could go on near you, but.
Honestly, if there's some raves that are going on around here, I want to fucking know about them because it gives me something to do.
I wouldn't completely say that out loud, but fair enough to you.
I mean, honestly, there aren't any raves. This is all hypothetical. There are no raves in Shropshire.
Fair
Let
enough.
the record show.
Shropshire.
Yes.
All right, I didn't realise it was. I'm trying because I don't know my geography
well.
But I know Shropshire.
Yeah.
I know. Oh God, what's it called? Bridgnorth. Do you know?
Bridgnorth. Yeah, I know Bridgnorth. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where my grandparents live in Bridgnorth.
Oh right.
And I know someone that was from like that area where you're from now. It makes sense. So I don't know if you know of the YouTubers TGF.
Yes, I do.
They went to a school around there.
Yeah.
And sort of, I know somebody that knew them. But that's all I really fucking know. There's not much more to the story.
There's like a lot of obscure, like random links to this place. It's a bit.
Yeah.
It's very odd. It's like there seems to be like you look at it in a wide scope, and it's like all this shit happens here, and it's like wow, this place must be quite interesting. You've got like famous comedians and like YouTubers and like actors and this and that, and then you actually get here and you're like, no, this is pretty much just farms and fields and everything that looks nice, like that isn't farming, happen. Like you see that in retrospect.
Yeah. No, it's a weird. I think it's a weird area. I mean, especially I don't know if you. This is a really, really obscure thing. I might have forgot this on the podcast because it's so obscure. But I don't know if it is in Telford. Telford. I'm trying to remember what sort of it is, but like there's an area where there's a shopping centre, and this is not going to help you at all. I know. There's a shopping centre. And it's got like a QVC store or something like that, and it's got loads of shit there. But basically, there's a McDonald's there. It was like medieval.
Yes, I live like by that town.
Do you?
Yeah. Basically,
it's not open anymore. I checked.
No, they closed it.
Yeah,
no, it was so cool. Everyone, like, honestly, the day they closed that down, like, everyone was just so sad because I think they closed it because the rent in like the high street because it's in Shrewsbury.
Right.
Yeah, I think at one point it was like a bit of a claim to fame because it was like the oldest building a McDonald's is in the world or something.
Yeah.
It's like 13 something.
Yeah.
But basically, because they couldn't update it to like the new one, they kind of just got rid of it. That's about a 20-minute train ride from mine.
No, it's mad. I mean, we saw something the other. I'm saying this because I remembered it the other day. I think it was because it was in like lockdown and stuff like that. And I was just like, I was trying to go
just
through
like on like a YouTube binge.
Yeah, I was honestly, it was like sort of I was going through my memories in my head, sort of like these weird things, and I was like, I swear that I remember when I was younger, I used to go to this McDonald's and it was like really old, and so I had a look, and sure enough, it existed. Very strange place.
It's like literally in the town centre. It's so odd.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's weird that you said this because it's weird. I've never spoken to somebody that's sort of known about that ever. And it's such a weird concept. I never thought I'd be speaking about that with you. Very strange. I'm gonna have to keep it in now because it's so
you got to keep it in to like let the people know. There used to be a medieval. Honestly,
there's definitely a pub quiz question in there.
There's a load of like those random pub quizzy things like around here, like the oldest McDonald's. Well, it's not the oldest McDonald's, but the oldest McDonald's. You know what I mean? It's like an old building.
Yeah.
There's that. Charles Darwin's apparently from here.
Oh right, okay.
There's a shitload of statues, so I mean, it must be at least a little true.
How many of them have been torn down recently, or?
None of Charles Darwin.
Fair
especially.
enough.
I mean, I think he was. I don't know about his public record, but I think he was a bit of a hermit from what I've like gathered. He's a bit of a shut-in type.
Yeah.
But there is one in the town centre of like this bloke who basically sacked India.
Oh God.
And there's been a shitload of petitions for that to come down. People, as you can probably imagine, rural Shropshire is quite a traditional place. We'll say that. It's quite traditional, very anti everything I am. It's really annoying.
Fair enough. So you said that sort of more people started coming back in the office. Did you notice that sort of people were anxious to get back in the office? And because you're trained as a mental health officer, so you're technically, we can say, professional in that field, you've got the training for it. Did you sort of have to, and you don't have to go into any specifics, but were there instances where you had to sort of take care of people's anxiety and because it's a very difficult time to sort of ask people to go back to work, and obviously people might have struggled in lockdown. So did you have to sort of use those skills that you learned?
Well, the first people that came back were our operatives on site. Many of them were furloughed in the early part. I think somewhere in the region of about 6 of them were kept on purely because the contracts they were involved with were ongoing. They were government contracts. So they carried on. And I think the others then who were sat at home, they all dealt with it differently. And it depends on their own mental state. I remember that I had a couple of difficult phone calls with them to try and sort of reassure them that everything would be okay. And this was at a time when really I didn't have all the answers. So I suppose my first sort of delve into it was with the operatives and the fixers before they came back. But then the office staff, we tried to have some kind of regular once a week Zoom chat whereby we just got them all on and tried to explain to them. But every single week it seemed to be the same thing, whereas they were all going, well, when do you think we'll be back? And we couldn't actually give them that answer. It had to be on a needs basis. And I then started to get involved with them personally in terms of speaking to them, checking they were okay. Many of them, when we did start bringing them back, were anxious about how it was going to work in the office. So that was really very difficult. And of course, with being off work for quite a long time and probably having very little contact with anybody else, we were saying to them, no, it's all okay, it's all fine. But that was easy for me to say that because I'd worked throughout and I'd had no lockdown period. I'd just carried on working.
Yeah, I suppose so. So sort of going away from work, what were the other sort of tools that you sort of went through with lockdown? Were there any other stresses that sort of played on your mind?
Well, you've also got your own family life, and obviously I'm including you in that. You know that your own children's education is possibly suffering as a result of it. You're trying to hold down a job and the jobs of many other people are obviously around you. It was really, really difficult. And I almost imagine it was like wartime where people huddled around the radio. When these announcements were coming out on a nightly basis, we all sat around, and I think in the end we got a bit tired of them because it was pretty much the same information being wheeled out. But to start with, that's what we all lived by. We were expecting some big thing to come out of nowhere and rescue us from the black hole that we're all heading towards. I think the difficulty now is we've ended up with a situation where many industries have suffered and lots of other people are suffering as a result of that. But yeah, mentally it's the most difficult thing I've ever done, and I'm still dealing with it now.
I think obviously we spoke about obviously this being a coronavirus special, but I don't think it'll be the only time it'll come up. You know, I think it's going to come up quite a few times, unfortunately, in sort of this sort of second season that we're going to go ahead into. But it's not, you know, this is not the last time it'll be mentioned, unfortunately.
No. I mean, whether it be coronavirus or anything else, anxiety is a big thing, and I've noticed that recently. Just how in a short space of time, for a variety of reasons, not exclusively to coronavirus, people can become anxious about their own personal position, money. There's so many things people get worried about, and they quite often don't discuss it with anybody. And that's the worst thing that they can possibly do. They often don't want to discuss it with a partner because they're both going through it at the same time, which is why I've tried to say to people, I'm here to speak to. Despite everything that I personally am going through, quite often it's you can separate yourself from that and find a way out for somebody else.
I think you're right in sort of saying that sort of everybody is going through it because it's an everybody sort of problem. So it's difficult to sort of speak to someone about something, even though because you know that they're going through it as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's very difficult to sort of. It's like when you're sort of helping out people and reassuring people, you've still got your own problems. It's difficult to sort of, and you know, we've always said sort of if you're in a better position, you should always help out people that are less fortunate. But everybody's going through it in different ways, and it is difficult. And I always say on the podcast, speak to your mates, speak to your family, speak to anybody that you know. Obviously, but now sort of in this time, you've got to be conscious that they're going to be going through stuff as well. So it's always good to sort of, you know, seek help, but also, you know, don't always want to. What I'm saying is, don't always expect the other person to be the therapist. Sometimes you need to be the therapist too.
The one thing I learned very quickly when I did the mental health first aid course was how many people seemed entirely normal in the room, but actually when they all opened up and got a chance to speak about things that have affected them in the past, you realise that we're all the same. We've all suffered some kind of mental health issue in the past and possibly still are dealing with it. And I guess the course taught me to break it down into smaller sections. And the main principle being that if you break it down, your problem down into the things that you can fix and the things you can't. And the things you can't, you have to move to one side. And then you move through the points the things that you can actually do something about. And once you start breaking it down to smaller sections, and if you've got 5 things, you've got rid of 3 of them straight away that you can instantly deal with. And then you realise afterwards the others are out of your control. You can't do anything about that at all, except make sure that you talk and you stay strong and you just open up as much as you possibly can.
So let's go on to lockdown 2. That's what we're kind of branding it as now. Lockdown, sort of the idea of lockdown has sort of been put back in our heads now. Sort of, you know, the country being sort of again put in a situation where it's more isolated than ever. Things are shutting, things are being more restricted than they were before. So we sort of had this brief period of sort of freedom, and then it's sort of now being restricted again. How optimistic are you for the future?
I think all you can be is optimistic, innit? So, I mean, I think the country might have a bit of a. I mean, I don't want to get into this because it is dreadful, but I think we might have a bit of a tactical recession. When I say tactical recession, I mean like really bad.
I can see that.
And I think a lot of people are going to be unemployed. Well, that's already happened, but I think loads more people will be unemployed. I mean, the thing is with another lockdown, I don't want to get too like political or whatever and talk about stuff like that. But the thing is with another lockdown, I don't think as a country we can afford it.
No, we can't.
I don't think we can afford it. I mean, what the government's doing now is like, please. I think it's the government's saying, we've cocked up, so please do as you're told now. Because then we'll have to lock you down again and you'll lose your jobs. Which we could have prevented in the first place, but kind of didn't. But I'm not going to get into it.
I think people have gone too far with it. That's my honest opinion. Again, I don't want to get too political about it. It's more about the mental health side. But sort of, there's a lot of strange tactics being taken, and I think we can sort of all see that. And a lot of wishy-washy information that's sort of putting a lot of bad signals.
The new furlough scheme is ridiculous. Seen it?
I've heard about it.
It's now 77% you get paid. Sorry for the politicalness, but you now get paid 77% of your average wage or whatever. But 55% of that has to be paid by your employer. Only the 22% will be paid by the government.
Right, so it's not even that much.
And then if you need any more, I believe, I can't remember what it was to do with, but they brought up the Treasury, and they'll give you like £600 a month, but that's it. I don't know, but that's for employers. I think the Treasury can give employers to give to their employees £680 something a month per person, but they've capped it at that. Because it's funny, isn't it? The Treasury own all our money, but they're quite stingy.
Yeah,
they don't like giving out money, do they?
No. Yeah, it's then I know they have to be careful, but at the same time, it's
Monopoly. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. Start off with an extra 100. What's all that about?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get you completely. So obviously, look at it. Obviously, next year, how optimistic are you for sort of getting towards? I've just spilled my drink everywhere. That's not good. Oh shit! I mean, it wasn't that much, to be fair.
Oh, that's what I all think.
It's all just got. It's only gone down my trousers.
The beer will be on me.
Oh, it's on the seat as well. Right, hang on. 1 second, boys.
Pause the recording, or are we just going to edit this out?
We'll edit it out. It's fine.
You have butchered enough. It's great.
No, it's fine. I mean, it's all right. I'll just give it a swift clean. So we're going into sort of next year. I know it seems quite far away now, but it's really only a few months away. Are you sort of are you anxious for normality to come back?
I think we can't go back to normality. I don't think we can. I think the only way we could do that is if we willed COVID not to exist. That'd be cool. Yeah. If we could do that. International effort. But that's just not going to happen. It's wishy-washy, make-believe. I think the only way we'd be able to go back to normal is if we had a tested, tried vaccination that meant that everyone would be safe. And I know that some people don't like the idea of vaccinations, and I get that. The good thing about vaccinations is that even that 100% of the population doesn't actually have to have it. You can have 30% of the population that doesn't have it, 70% that does, and everyone's still fine. Not everyone takes the MMR vaccination, but we haven't. I don't know anyone who's had measles, mumps, or rubella. So I think that's pretty much covered. But I do think that there's kind of there's a yearning to go back to normality at the moment. Defo. I think even I slipped the bar a little bit. I was a little bit uncautious in August. Is that the right word? Uncautious? Yeah, why not?
Yeah, we'll say so.
I wasn't careful in August, and as a result, I really hope that I wasn't some sort of silent spreader. I was watching the graphs. I was watching the animations yesterday on the on the COVID address done by Whitty, Johnson, and Valence, and it really just says that it's our age group, 18 to 21 and 14 to 17, that we don't get very many symptoms. We don't know it's happening to us, but we spread it. We're like super spread. We're silent spreaders. We have the highest number of positive cases, tests. We have the highest number of positive tests. That's just flat out all over the country. That is the number. But we have one of the lowest hospital admissions and people put into intensive care, which means we're either suffering with it at home or we are symptomless. We don't know what's going on. We may feel a bit crappy one day, but we're still going outside because we think, we're COVID free. And I think that's the point. We're talking about everyone doing their bit, and we're complaining about the government and they're not getting their shit together. But actually, I think if you're a young person at the moment, you're really not the ones who get a chance to go back to normal. You really have to just suck it up and move on and get on with the day. Wear a mask, sanitize regularly, and pray that you're not going to accidentally kill someone.
Which is
that could happen. That's the reality.
A tough thing to accept. I think a lot of people will sort of not like to hear that because sort of, especially like us, we're going to uni. A lot of people sort of I know are sort of a similar age group, so that will sort of relate to them, and they'll hear that, and I can sort of hear their frustration already. But like we've got an immense amount of responsibilities. Everybody's got immense responsibility, but I think that's definitely our age group. We definitely have, and it's about setting a good example.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And look, we can sort of the idea that we can sort of be out of this and sort of be back to a better sort of society, better normality, if we like, a new normal. We'll be back to that if we sort of sacrifice now. And we've been saying that for ages, and I don't think we've made that sacrifice yet.
I don't think we have. We talk about people. If you talk about times of which our country's been in like massive adversity, you look back at World War II, people gave up their jobs, either went and served in the army, or they gave up their jobs and went and worked in factories to support them. Support them. Agriculture pulled all their resources. Everyone rationed. Like, these are massive national efforts to beat something. And I feel like, people lost loved ones in the last pandemic, in the last 6 months. And if you're thinking that, the rules still don't apply to me, I really have no words for you. Do you see that post? I don't know if you follow the Shade Borough on Instagram. I do. And I saw there was a party of 200 to 300 people in Coventry, like 2 days ago, in one house. To be fair, one house. But they don't know if people came into that house. They don't know if it was if it was everyone from the same place. There's no way of proving it. And that's kind of shocking. That's really shocking. You need to give a shit. You need to care. This isn't the type of moment where you can really think about yourself. To me, that's the most Tory behaviour, thinking the rules don't apply to you. That is disgusting.
Yeah, and the thing is, there's a lot of people that get political about it, and it's, you can't criticise I mean, I would say you can't criticise the government if you didn't vote in an election when you could have. It's the same principle now. If you can't criticise the government if you're doing what is, technically wrong.
What they're telling you not to do.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't get political about it and go, well, I don't actually agree with the government, so I'm going to do it anyway. It's not a time to get political.
The problem. Yeah.
The coronavirus isn't a political sort of matter. It's a fucking matter that just needs to be sorted out by everybody.
We all hope that at some point in the not too distant future, I mean, I'm talking about maybe 6 months from now, we've got some kind of normality back into our lives. Admittedly, we're always going to have to do the things that coronavirus has taught us to do more, wash our hands and maybe keep our distances for longer periods of time. But hopefully people will be able to return back to work, because if they don't, the mental health of so many people is at risk, but particularly those who aren't as lucky and haven't got a support network around them, have not got so many friends or family who live close to them. We've got to remember this, and we've got to look out for each other.
Yeah, it's not a time to sort of be selfish. And I actually saw something today which was so Cineworld are going to shut all their sort of cinemas. The US operations and the UK and sort of operations there, which is mental, because that's a lot of jobs. And obviously that's happened because they don't see it being viable in the current climate. There's not enough films coming out. The new Bond film just got pushed back, for example. And there's people that are only just finding out sort of from these articles, people that work for Cineworld. It is mental. And it's really sort of showing, the companies and sort of, you own a company, this is me saying this to you, sort of, you need to be as open as possible, I believe, with your staff, because it's what you need, and that's what they need to hear. I'm not saying you're going to go out to the sun and say we're shutting down operations and then they're going to find out, the next day. It's probably not going to happen. But what, it's the idea of sort of, not even just in a business sense, but also just being as open as possible, because we don't need that mystery right now.
Sort of circa 30 direct employees, and that's quite an undertaking and a responsibility. There are probably managers out there who don't care for the staff quite as much as we do, but we see it as one big family. Might sound cheesy, but it's true, and it's the one thing. Yeah. We've always been close to them. They can talk to us about anything at any time, and they usually know we've only got one office, and so they know whether something's going right or going wrong. So we do stay very close to them, but we're just trying to do it for everybody. We're trying to get through what we need to get through, do the right things at the right time, be careful where we can. The social distancing and everything else, I think we've done pretty well at that. But who knows? We're talking about sort of 6 months' time. We'll have to see. We take now each week and month as it comes, and just see how we can get through it together. But the one good thing is we've got a great team around us, and that is just one of the biggest bonuses anybody can have, any employer can have.
If you're tuning back in to the Talking Head podcast, Toes spilled his brew.
It's everywhere. It's got messy. For the visually impaired, I've just wet the seat.
For the visually impaired, June's holding out of Baps. That's a good one.
Have you seen the recent one? It's
the fake taxi.
It's yeah, I've seen that. But
he's still fake taxi.
He has a Biscoff milkshake, and June's in the van with him, and June spilled some of the cream on the seat.
Oh yeah, what you got that cream on the seat?
June's just creamed on the seat. Dave,
classic blue on that.
It is quite good. They are quite just relaxing watches, aren't they? Yeah, let's talk again. Let's talk again about let's wrap it up about the future. So next year, how are we feeling about next year with coronavirus? Do you reckon normality is going to be reached? Do you reckon and do you reckon sort of if it isn't, that's going to have an effect on your mental health?
I think, I don't know, because I think what's kept me sane, as sad as it is working. So I won't be working as much, obviously, because I'm off to uni. And my uni timetables come through. I've got like one day there, the rest's online. But I don't know, because at the end of the day, I think people have forgotten now because it's not old news, but obviously there's only so much you can talk about it. Like by next year, there probably could be a vaccine. I mean, I don't think that. I mean, obviously that'll, because this is a vaccine. There's a vaccine. You know what I mean? That's it. That's kind of the end of it. I mean, but I think people will still, have it and maybe sadly die of it, and it will still cause issues. But I think what will happen now is everyone will be more cautious, and I think there will be people, because they get rid of masks or whatever, because they've already said when they're going to stop giving people masks. It's like February, isn't it? They're going to get rid of that rule of mask wearing on trains and stuff.
Which is weird, so that they can sort of see that far ahead, which I reckon.
Yeah,
I reckon masks might be around for quite a while.
I don't. Yeah, maybe they will be. I don't know, but I don't think they'll be. I think they'll stop being compulsory at some point when maybe there's a vaccine.
Oh yeah.
But I think people will still wear them. I think we'll now enter an era where people in this country, because you never see people wearing face masks in this country.
No.
When you're walking around like a city, because obviously it's Asia, isn't it, where it's a big thing. You wear them in cities, obviously, because it's highly populated and the pollution. I think now in this country, I think there'll be a lot more people wearing masks and stuff, just because they don't want to catch anything. I think it's going to make people more germophobic than they already are, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, I wear a mask because it's it's common sense. Sorry, Ian Brown, but it's common sense. Yeah, I know. It's common sense, I'm afraid. If you don't wear them, you are just selfish. Unless you've obviously got the flowery lanyard, that's what you can. It's just selfish not to wear one at the end of the day. So until when the government says you don't have to wear them anymore, I mean, I don't think I will, because I don't think I'd need to, because at the end of the day, I'm privileged that I'm young, so I'm the lowest risk I could possibly be. It's to protect other people, not myself, really. It's about thinking about other people. But I think once that it stops being compulsory, I think I'll stop wearing.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's sort of, I do it obviously at the moment, sort of with the rising cases,
we do it at work now. We have to wear them at work. It's now law.
I mean, I started at work out for the first 2 months of working at
my skincare routine.
I worked in retail, and the skincare, honestly, it's a big thing because it's causing acne so much. I mean, I reckon
they do cause like spots around there.
Yeah, and sort of it started getting quite warm. Summer sort of hit, and I sort of was just I just stopped wearing it at work, and I sort of regret it in some ways, but some ways I was like, it was too warm to work in, and especially where I worked, it was more like a greenhouse than anything else. And I know you work in literal greenhouses at times, but sort of in a way, it was awful. So I had to sort of stop wearing a mask for a bit, and I managed to sort of distance myself. What have you done?
Sorry, just ignore that.
All right, okay. We're glossing over it. Don't worry. Yeah, no, I stopped wearing it, and then obviously I've left work now, and it's just become compulsory. So whether or not I think that's the right thing to do, yeah, probably it is. It probably should have been the thing from the beginning, especially with bars being open as well. I have been in situations where bartenders have got actually quite close up, and I've not really said anything about being uncomfortable with it, but it's half of me which is uncomfortable with it, and the idea of the fact that they've probably done that to everybody else who's in that bar.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Well, now so people who work in restaurants have to wear them, don't they? So.
Yeah, there's an idea behind it which I sort of agree with, and yeah, I think it's going to make a lot of people, more people feel safe. And I think if people see people working in shops doing it, then you sort of lose the excuse not to be bothered to wear one when you're just a customer, because a lot of people will just come into saying they can't be bothered, but if someone's working 8-hour shifts in it, then you can wear it for 10 minutes. There's no excuse unless you've got an actual genuine issue.
I saw a thing about it. It was more aimed at American people, because there's like protests in America, isn't there, about wearing them? This country, I think there isn't many. I don't think. Is there? I don't know. But I know in America there's like huge protests about wearing masks. So it's like because all these protesters are mainly Trump supporters, because they're also doing like anti-Black Lives Matter stuff. You know, lovely people. It was like, it was like the picture of that dog. I can't remember what it's called. You know, like dog that's a meme. I don't know what it's called. It's that little shout chow thing. I don't know.
Anyway, in the firehouse.
No, I don't know. It's not.
Another
anyway,
one.
Ignore me. I sound like a right granddad. It's like, Trump supporters, you know, drink beer, buy guns, love women, and objectify women, hate black people type thing. That's the list. And then it kind of Trump supporters on the other hand, mask hurts my face, and it's like dog crying.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can you portray this kind of we're hard as nails, and then you refuse to
do that
on your face for like 5 minutes. Someone put a Mitchell and Webb image on. You know the image of Dave Mitchell going, "Are we the baddies?"
Yeah.
Because Britain's Got Talent has received 2,000 complaints because one of the judges wore a Black Lives Matter badge.
A BLM, yeah.
BLM, and they received 2,000 complaints. So someone's done that with, "Are we the snowflakes?" Question mark.
It's
which is true.
Ridiculous,
which is true. If you don't support Black Lives Matter, you are a fucking snowflake.
Yeah, exactly.
Very Ricky Gervais.
Yeah, it was actually. We'll end that conversation just in the hopes to not get too political, because obviously we don't want to get too caught up in that. But I think I've got a bit of optimism for the future and sort of coronavirus. I think you've got to really. You can't just be constantly pessimistic, you know. We can't talk about the McDonald's all day, unfortunately. With lockdown, the idea of I know it'll come a special. We can just go into it. The history of that McDonald's.
the history of McDonald's.
Because there's probably the rich history behind it. Anyway, let's
honestly,
move on.
if you looked into it.
Yeah, no, there probably is. Right, lockdown 2. Okay, the idea of sort of the second lockdown, the sequel. It's probably not that anticipated, but
Lockdown 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Are you sort of? Do you think it's gonna? We are gonna have.
It's definitely coming.
Do you reckon it's gonna be as harsh as the first one?
Honestly, no.
Right.
I think it should be. It definitely should be, but I don't think it will.
Do you want it to be?
It's a weird one, isn't it? Because
you want it to be, because ideally, if you're all
obviously
it would be better, but you've got to think in terms of, would you want that mentally?
It's a strange one, because in terms of like for the good of the public health and all this, yes, I do, because it will be better for everyone afterwards if we go in and just get it under control.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic. In terms of going back to the just honestly pure like cyclical, like boredom, depression, few moments of mania, back down, up and down the whole time. God no. It's a weird one. I'm hoping they do it after we move into uni dorms, because then it's at least you're in there with a group of people who are relatively like similar like to you, as opposed to like my parents, which is incredibly boring. No offense, but you know.
No, I
different
understand
interests.
you. Sort of going. Well, I mean, we're both going into uni, so I've spoken to a few other people about it. But sort of, are you anxious about the fact that sort of you go into uni with sort of the idea of a second lockdown possibly pending?
Honestly, it's with everything that's been going on, just as a whole, like, you know, the world being on fire, literally and figuratively. You know, the actual prospect of getting everything ready to go down there, quitting jobs, yada yada. It's not been something I've thought about, and honestly, I'm probably quite glad it hasn't, because if I properly sit down and think about that, I would probably be like a bit of a nervous wreck about it. I'm more just like buzzed at the idea of like getting out and going now, just because you know, getting somewhere. I know where we're going isn't exactly, you know, the metropolitan capital of the world, like but, oh god, it's better than here.
Yeah. I mean, no, it's where we're going is sort of I mean, I think in my head it does seem like the hot fuzz town. Compared to Leeds at least anyway.
Oh, definitely. Compared to like up in Halifax, this place is bad.
Yeah. But the thing is, a lot of people go on about uni and sort of wanting to go to these big cities because you sort of get that experience. But like this year, it's the worst year to go for that sort of experience, because those big cities are the ones that are getting hit the hardest as well.
In some ways, I'm quite glad that I've not gone to like Liverpool or Manchester or whatever.
Yeah.
Partially because the course at this place is doubtably like far better. But it's like, but that as well is definitely a factor, isn't it? Because I mean, I have friends and friends of friends who've gone to Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool, or whatever, and they're having to lock down in their dorms because someone's got it. Like someone's got COVID, and it's like, yeah, I'm pretty glad that's not going to be like basically every 3 or 4 weeks. Because that seems almost like worse than being in a lockdown, like the constant uncertainty of it. I think been, you know, more out of the way, you've got a very, I can just get on with it, like just get on with it kind of thing. It's like, obviously it's there and you need to take the precautions and wear a bloody mask. But like you've got to, there's a lot less of like the potential for it, which I think is quite reassuring.
Yeah, definitely. So looking forward to the future, how sort of would you rate yourself as being quite optimistic for it?
Oh,
I mean, I don't want to put too much pressure on you as well, because you're not a scientist, but like the idea of sort of normality going back to normal, when do you sort of have you got an idea? Because it'll be an interesting sort of look now if you sort of say, when do you reckon normality will sort of go back to normal? We can sort of look back on it when it sort of almost does. When do you reckon sort of normality will be reached, and how optimistic are you for it to sort of be reached soon? Because I imagine you probably want it to be reached.
If it could be reached tomorrow, has my vote. But realistically, I think it's going to be a couple years. Not just for like, obviously, like when they get a vaccine, that's the big push for it, innit? Like you get the vaccine, most people will get it because most people are sensible, and then generally things will start to head back to how they were. But then you've got, obviously, there's going to be a lot of places that are closing down. I feel like, especially if there's a second lockdown, there will be, which is a real shame, but it's a fact of it. And I feel like to get everything back to how it was, like almost like if you paused time and went back to like, say, January this year, I think it's it's going to take probably about 3 or 4, 5 years to get it like to some form of normalcy and people removing mask policies. I think that's going to be something that might stick, to be fair. It's like masks and hand gels, because I think for the amount of absolute chaos this bloody thing has done, it's I don't think it's worth a lot of like places being like, you know what, we'll just do whatever. I feel like a lot of places are going to want to be back to normal. But like, I mean, I know I saw Reading's got all tickets out again this year, like Reading and Leeds and Glastonbury and all these festivals, and it's like they're not going to be back to normal for a while, which is a real shame, to be fair, because you don't want to be sat in a squared off box in a festival. But
I'm tempted to see how it will sort of work.
Yeah, I think before I do,
it won't work at sort of. I can't see it happening at full capacity next year.
Oh, definitely not.
I imagine they've sort of reduced it anyway as a sort of first thing, but I don't know. It'll be intriguing to sort of see, because I can't really see it sort of being sort of what it was. But we've got sort of now a newfound appreciation for things, and that's sort of the positive. We now have sort of a newfound sort of, we can appreciate things more, and sort of that normal stuff and the normal little things. You sort of before were so overlooked. Now we can sort of go and actually say, well, I actually appreciate that and appreciate people in your life and stuff like that. So that's sort of a positive to come out of it. Because I don't want to come out of it, this podcast, being quite negative and getting people on a downer, because that's never the sort of the intention.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like it will get back to normal. Yeah, it will get back to normal. It's just going to take some time.
Yeah, with all things, it'll go back to normal, and sort of we're lucky that it's sort of happening now than sort of because a lot of people go, I wish this happened when I wasn't around and stuff like that, but it could have been a lot worse. We are, as much as people have said we are well equipped, we have been I think we've been pretty well equipped with stuff, and certain decisions I can applaud. Certain decisions I can obviously go, fuck that. That's the worst thing in the world. I thank God for the furlough scheme. That
has been a lifesaver.
That's been a lifesaver for a lot of people, and one of the I don't want to get too political, but one of the the positives of what the Tory government have done in the last few years has been that.
For sure, the furlough scheme was like honestly the best decision they could have done.
They could have done. But honestly, without getting too political, to be fair, I think we're more well equipped for a second lockdown now, if there was going to be one, so it wouldn't be as severe. I think we know a lot more about the virus. I think people are much more sort of informed. Now people sort of have this idea, and I don't know if it's a healthy idea to have, where if you sort of get the virus, it's not as lethal as you thought, because a lot of people used to think, if you get the virus, I'm going to die. It's an instant thing. Now it's sort of seen as this thing that sort of, it's not as severe as we originally thought, but whether or not it's a positive thing to sort of think, I don't know.
I feel like it's a very it's a very like two-sided coin, where it has a lot of positives of like people can stop being, like bulk buying toilet paper, but obviously it has the problem of then you get people who are like, you know what, I'm just going to go out because it's going to be fine. It's just not healthy. But I think definitely as well, now we've had one lockdown, I feel like a lot of people are probably more equipped, like what you're going into. And I think that will be a big saving grace. And obviously like, the internet, like I don't think I could have done this like lockdown without the internet.
No, exactly. Yeah, if you did this 20 years ago, you'd be struggling.
Oh God, I'd be I would not be in a
well,
very
you wouldn't
good
be
place.
Alive, to be fair.
Well, yeah, that's one big thing. I wouldn't be alive, but like also I don't know if I'd be like, I wouldn't, if it wouldn't be the best of places, like being so isolated for like so long. I couldn't do that.
But I also, think we wouldn't have the sort of we have Spotify. We wouldn't have how would we be? 20 years ago you wouldn't have had WAP, so we wouldn't have been able to make it through make it through lockdown at all.
I don't even think I've actually listened to that song all the way through yet.
I'm being sarcastic, so don't worry. But no.
No, I know, but everyone's always saying it. It's like this song has been like massive, and I don't think I've actually listened to it all the way through.
Human, mate. I mean, Alan up to it. And I had a night out recently.
After this.
So there's a street in Leeds called Briggate. Quite a pretty well-known street where there's lots of high street sort of labels and stuff like that. And this was to be, I don't know, if we were like 1 a.m. or something like that. I wasn't pissed, but I was like, this is before the sort of 10 p.m. curfew and all this stuff. And
you had a healthy drink.
Yeah, I was out with people from work on just like work do. Because I was leaving, we were going out anyway, but it was a nice thing because I was leaving, and it's just now they've employed this like sort of grass space on Briggate, and for some reason
they've done that down here.
A good idea to sort of do the WAP dance, which is terrible because it involves a split, and I was wearing, let's say, tight trousers. I have no idea how they didn't actually rip, but it was terrible. And I was stuck in that position for a good 5 minutes because I don't know, my body's not equipped to go into that position. So I
mean, a skinful of beer clearly helped with that.
Yeah, well, yeah, a good amount. I don't even think I was on the beer. I was on more vodka and shots.
Well, that really helps.
No, I know. And I think I just kept coming back and there were shots waiting for me. Yeah. It was an expensive night. That's all I'm going to say. But yeah, no, I think we should end the podcast with sort of a positive. Sort of a message of sort of positivity. So, with this second lockdown sort of potentially coming into place, and sort of these restrictions getting harsher now, from getting quite easier, and people's mental health sort of it might have struggled through lockdown, and the idea of a second one is sort of bringing back these sort of bad thoughts, and it's looming in their heads. What would be your advice to sort of people that are very anxious in this time, and what would you say what would be your sort of idea to sort of try and cure that and sort of calm it?
I would say, especially like with the whole idea of like second lockdown and all this, my, I guess, key piece of advice would be you, while you have time and you can still go out and like find things to do, go out, experiment, try new things, and find something that you like that you can also foreseeably like keep up as a hobby, and have this like thing and have this sort of anchor to just come back to. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's like, getting a punch bag, or like going to the gym, or whether it's like reading like comic books, or like collecting things, or find an outlet that's not just passively watching Netflix, or like sitting like on an Xbox or a PlayStation, just like kind of trying to zone out. Try and find something that's active that will like keep you thinking. I mean, I find something that's distracting but not passive. You need like something that you can do, and something that you enjoy doing is probably the key part of that. Like, definitely like find something you really enjoy and latch onto that with all you can. I think that would be my golden advice for anyone.
That would be very. I mean, I think that's quite good advice, to be honest. And my advice would be sort of similar: find the stuff that you sort of like, and sort of go wild with it, and see where you can go. Sort of. I mean, I can sort of credit that and say, sort of stuff that I've done. I've written a lot of. I've sort of filmed a lot in lockdown, and sort of as a result of it, I've created a podcast, and sort of. We've got to the point now where we're sort of ending this first season, going into sort of a second season, which will be coming very, very soon. I'll keep you guys updated on the social medias. We've got some very exciting news, which again I've already teased it last week, and I can't reveal it yet because I've revealed stuff in the past, and I like the idea of it sort of I wanna tease you guys and sort of keep you guessing, and then eventually we'll come back. But I've already revealed we'll come back in a video format. But there's more exciting news in that, so get ready for that.
Ooh.
But I think that's good advice. I think that's good advice to sort of latch into stuff that you really sort of enjoy and just go ham with it.
Everybody's got to take personal responsibility. That's the first thing. Stop blaming other people for things that haven't quite worked out the way you thought they should have done in the past. I'm not saying you should be single-minded, but at the same time, you do have to think about yourself, what you're doing, and also just recognize the fact that you can't change everything. The things that are happening around you, you probably can't change most of them. The one thing you can do is make sure that you are staying in touch with people, you're speaking to people, whether that's friends, family, people at work. It doesn't matter. Just somebody who will listen, who can offer you some kind of constructive advice. And try and find out who those people are, particularly if you are in employment. Who are those people who've got some mental health experience? You'd be surprised actually how many people can help in these sort of strange circumstances we're in, who've got they won't have lived the same life as you, but they will have had similar experiences and may well have an answer that you'd not even thought of. So it's all about talking. It's an old adage, but it is true. Just talk to people. Use people around you. Find those people who will listen with the right advice, and just try and get yourself back on track and stop worrying about the things that you can't fix.
There are doubts I have, of course. There are, with sort of live music, that's something I'm missing, and sort of that's something I have my doubts about. And any sort of live event
next year.
And it's whether or not any sort of thing will even happen. I'm hoping sort of, Reese Fest, I've just announced a bunch of new artists today, and sort of, you sort of get reminded that's a thing that's going to be coming up. And you've not seen what it is?
No, I'm not seeing it.
Wombats are coming back, which is a Leeds Fest classic, so you can
classic sort of festival
guarantee that's going to be good. KSI as well, legendary KSI.
They'll be great performance.
Playing out the field.
I hope he brings Randolph out.
I hope he brings out Ethan Payne.
I blocked Bazinga on Twitter. He does my head he just gets suggested. I don't like.
He's a bit. I'm going to be honest. He's a bit wet. He doesn't seem like my kind of person. He just seems a bit too much at the moment.
It just I blocked all the time. I think I was getting my suggestions. I'm not bothered. I don't. When I block people on Twitter, it's not because they've annoyed me. It's because I get them suggesting I can't be asked. Because even when you press remove this ad, it's not relevant. It still comes back.
So, if Ethan Payne is listening, there's a bit of justification as to why you're banned by this. So if you were wondering,
we'll have a YouTube boxing match.
Oh God, don't.
He'll probably batter me. He's massive now, isn't
he? Yeah, he's a bit edge. But anyway,
What?
The youth is smart. We are incredibly dumb at times, but you know what? We can actually put ourselves together.
And I think we're demonised on a regular basis. I think we're demonised on a regular basis by the current government. And I'm waiting for the day that enough of us are old enough to vote them out. That's really it. But that's my own personal belief. I'm not going to tell someone that they need to think the same way I do. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I think that you can't turn around and blame one select group of a society when you've told everyone to go out and have a meal in a restaurant. How many times was Eat Out to Help Out going on? Was it like 4 times a week? 4 days a week, yeah.
Monday to Thursday. Oh, hang on. No, yeah. Monday to Wednesday, yeah.
Was it Wednesday? Yeah.
Wednesday, and then some people extended it.
Exactly. So you can't tell people that we are the one problem when you had a whole month of people saying, yeah, go out, socialize, go out and have a meal. The connotations of that are just so stupid. So yeah, the logic doesn't really make sense. I just think that we need to stop pointing fingers and saying, this person or that person. We need to start saying us or we, or, you know, I'm thinking of other people right now. And that means that, yeah, I'm going to give up some of my privileges in order for someone else to have the privilege of, you know, breathing.
Yeah. It literally comes down to that. And yeah, no. I think we should sort of wrap it up and just.
Sure thing.
Because again, that message of sort of taking responsibility and the idea of we is very important. And I know there's a lot of people that listen to this that are sort of similar age. And I would just advise you to sort of look at your own actions and don't take those massive different changes initially, because you know that's going to be a difficult thing to do. Look at the little things that you do and sort of try and minimize them. Sort of see what you can do individually, because everybody will do different things, and just try and sort of see what can I do, and make those little differences, and then hopefully we'll see them sort of count. But yeah, no, it's been lovely speaking to you, Gabriel, today.
You too, mate.
It's been lovely having a little catch up before uni. I don't know if I'll be seeing you. Maybe at a distance. Maybe at a distance.
If we're in the same social bubble.
Yeah, that's the thing. We don't know what's going on at the moment, but different rules for different places. So it's going to be weird, but one point I'll see your face, so it'll be all right. Not over a Zoom screen as well.
Oh my gosh, could you imagine?
I always ask every guest, have you got anything to plug, or do you want to leave it over a little message, or yeah?
Go follow my Instagram. It's curlygabe99. But no, just do you know what? Just take care of yourself, everybody. It, you know, at the end of the day, you are responsible for your actions, and just have some sense. And you know, rewatch something. I'm rewatching Peaky Blinders. It's the best. I love it. I love it with a passion. So, you know, and go, I don't know, start a journal, draw a picture, read a book, do something. You don't have to, you know, you don't have to just lie in bed and, you know, look at your phone.
Yeah.
That's it.
I definitely agree. Yeah, do something. That's the message we'll end on.
Do one.
Because it can apply to many different things. Yeah, just do something. Come on.
Yeah.
Stop being lazy, right? You know, if it's illegal, then probably don't be doing it. If it's legal and you like doing it, then I would say do it.
Definitely. I mean, don't kill anything, I feel, is probably the biggest exception to that advice.
Yeah, just don't kill, just don't kill, actually.
Just don't do the things that you know you probably shouldn't do. That's probably the
don't do anything heinous. You'll be fine. But yeah, no. It's been lovely speaking to you today, James.
Yeah, it's been really good.
It's been really good, and
especially find someone who knows about the McDonald's.
Exactly. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to do a part 2 to explore the McDonald's.
Just 3 hours of
a 3-hour journey.
Shropshire McDonald's.
We don't even have to do it about the McDonald's. We can find about other fast foods that have happened in
haunted fast food restaurants in Shrewsbury.
Haunted fast food. We can go live to it and do like a break in 24 hours.
do a like Paranormal Activity kind of thing. Set up all like the infrared cameras and a Ouija board.
Well, exactly. You know. We are going to a video format, so who knows?
Is the spirit of Ronald McDonald in this place? Yes.
Yeah. Oh no. So yeah, no. That could be an interesting thing. Just give me a message and see if you guys want it, and we'll work our magic. But yeah, no, it's been lovely speaking to you, James. And
it's been really good.
Thank you for coming on. Have you got anything you want to plug before we go? Or
plug? Not at the minute. A lot of the things that I would consider to start plugging aren't at a point where I can plug them yet. So
once you are ready,
maybe next time I'll plug. Maybe next time I'll plug some stuff at the end of McDonald's.
There we go. Thank you for getting involved in this conversation, mate. And hopefully I'll see you on a podcast soon. I probably will at this rate, because you've been on like probably almost half of them at this point. So, yeah. How have you managed to do that, mate? How have you managed to do that? No, it is.
Ask the other hiring me.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you back for season 2 in a couple of weeks when we're back on video format, so you'll be able to see my lovely, beautiful face, which is completely sarcastic because I hate myself. Anyway, I'll see you. I'm joking. Right, I'll see you guys soon. Take care and get talking to your mates. All right, cheers.